Chosen one, pause right now. Heaven has stopped everything to find you in this exact moment. Nothing around you is accidental. Every sound, every breath, every word you are hearing right now has been ordered by divine timing. The scroll of heaven turns to your name, and the voice that formed the stars whispers again. Listen, you are not one among many. You are the one marked by light in a generation dimmed by confusion. From the moment you entered this world, unseen forces recognize the seal upon your soul. That seal has always set you apart. You have felt it in the silence, in the ache that others could not understand, in the longing that refused to leave you. The reason is simple: you were never created for the ordinary path. Heaven itself has paused to tell you that this is your awakening. There are moments when eternity touches time, when the natural world bends to let the supernatural speak. This is one of those moments. The wind of heaven leans close, and though the world scrolls on, heaven stands still to reach your heart. God is not shouting, He is whispering with authority, reminding you that His hand is still on your life. Every closed door, every heartbreak, every delay, it all served to position you for this divine interruption. You have been wondering, why now? Why me? The answer: because your spirit has been trained in the unseen. The very pain that tried to break you has become the proof that you were chosen. You survived what others could not because you carry what others do not. There is a mantle resting upon you that the world cannot explain. And right now, that mantle begins to stir. Heaven speaks through stillness and through storms alike. When everything seemed to collapse, when prayers felt unanswered, when silence grew unbearable, God was not absent. He was orchestrating alignment. Every disappointment was divine redirection. Every tear was a prophetic seed watering your next season. Even the isolation you despised was preparation for recognition. And so heaven confirms its word again. It is revealed in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will never leave you. Chosen one, heaven calls you to attention. The angels take their positions when you listen. Your obedience in this moment unlocks the next season of your destiny. Every word that reaches your ears today is part of a divine orchestration to awaken you from spiritual sleep. This message was not sent to entertain, it was sent to activate. You may have scrolled here by accident, but heaven calls it appointment. You may think it's another video, another voice, but heaven calls it a divine encounter. You may feel unqualified, broken, overlooked, but heaven calls you chosen. That is why you can feel this weight in your spirit right now. It is not pressure, it is purpose. And hear me, when heaven speaks, response matters. The ground beneath your feet is holy right now. You are being invited into covenant alignment, into a season where your yes will move mountains. The world needs your obedience. The people tied to your destiny are waiting for your awakening. And God says, now, this is the first time heaven has said something like this to you in this way. Not because God was silent before, but because now your spirit is finally ready to hear. You have endured enough to carry the message with humility and authority. The weight of your calling no longer crushes you, it crowns you. Take this moment seriously. Lift your head, breathe. Heaven's spotlight is on you, not to expose your flaws, but to reveal your assignment. You are being marked for divine release. Heaven stopped to say, you still belong to me. If you can feel that truth resonating inside your chest, it means your time has come. Your wilderness is over. The season of wandering ends here. The door before you has opened, not because you forced it, but because heaven's timing has reached maturity. Beloved chosen one, if this message speaks to your spirit, don't scroll past it. Let this be your act of faith, like share, and comment to declare that you have heard heaven's voice today. Subscribe to stay connected to messages spoken under divine anointing, because this is only the beginning of what God is about to reveal through you. And finally, as a prophetic sign that you are receiving this word and stepping into your calling, comment the number 777 below the number of divine completion, covenant, and heavenly perfection. From the first breath you ever took, heaven already knew your name. Long before your parents saw your face, your identity was written in divine ink across the scrolls of eternity. You were not a coincidence in time, you were a decision made in heaven. Every fiber of your being carries evidence that you were marked before birth. There is something sacred about realizing that your story began before the world ever spun on its axis. The one who spoke galaxies into being whispered your purpose before your heartbeat began. He saw your journey, your tears, your triumphs, and your failures, and still chose you. Nothing about your existence is random. You were called, appointed, and anointed long before anyone else believed in you. Every moment you have lived has been part of a carefully woven divine pattern. Even the pain was prophetic. Even the wrong turns became part of the map that led you here. You might have thought you were lost, but heaven was simply guiding you through training grounds disguised as trouble. What others saw as mistakes, God saw as molding. In the unseen realm, your name carries weight. The angels know it, darkness fears it, and heaven protects it. You have been preserved not because you are flawless, but because you are chosen. Before you spoke a word, heaven declared destiny over your life. You were never ordinary, even when you tried to fit in. That strange sense of being different was not rejection, it was revelation. It was proof that you came from somewhere greater. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, revealing what heaven already knew about you. Book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. These words are not ancient poetry, they are the eternal blueprint of your life. God did not discover you. He designed you. Your gifts, your personality, your resilience, even your scars, were all shaped to serve heaven's plan. You are not behind schedule. You are on the path heaven mapped out before you took your first step. Think about it, the same voice that said, "Let there be light," also said, "Let there be you." When he spoke your name in eternity, creation responded. The circumstances of your birth could not stop it. The battles you faced could not erase it. The times you doubted your worth did not silence heaven's declaration over your life. You are not trying to become something, you are remembering who you already are in the mind of God. There are secrets hidden inside your spirit. Keys that unlock things no one else can open. That is why the enemy fought you so early. Why rejection found you when you were still innocent. Why certain doors closed before you even had a chance to prove yourself. The battle over your life began before you could understand it. Because what you carry is bigger than what you've been through. You are not here by accident, and you are not forgotten. Heaven has invested years into shaping you for such a time as this. Every delay was refinement. Every heartbreak taught you endurance. Every unanswered prayer built strength within your faith. What you saw as silence was heaven's way of engraving endurance into your soul. When you were misunderstood, God was revealing the mystery of your uniqueness. When people left you, heaven was clearing the room for divine conversation. When you thought you failed, God was showing you that purpose cannot die in the heart of someone chosen. Even when you ran from your calling, mercy ran faster. You must now begin to walk as someone heaven already trusts. The hesitation you feel is the tension between your old identity and your divine reality. The old version of you doubts. The chosen version knows. The old you strives for approval. The chosen you already carries it. The old you fears the future. The chosen you remembers that the future has already been written. Chosen one, lift your head. There is a reason your spirit stirs when you hear truth. It is not new information, it is divine memory. You are remembering what heaven spoke before time began. You are awakening to the reality that you were never meant to blend in, but to blaze a trail of purpose that only you can walk. The season of questioning your worth ends here. The voice of heaven calls again, you are mine. You were always mine. You were marked before birth. You have carried a weight that few could see and even fewer could understand. The invisible battles, the private tears, the silent prayers whispered into the darkness, heaven heard every one of them. You may not have realized it, but every heavy season was a holy classroom. Every burden you carried was shaping strength within you. What looked like struggle was actually sacred preparation. There are things inside you that could only be born through pressure. The fire you've walked through was not meant to destroy you, it was meant to refine you. Every heartbreak was a chisel, carving humility and compassion into your spirit. Every betrayal became a mirror, revealing who truly walked with you and who only walked near you. You were being trained in the secret places for battles that only the chosen can fight. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms. Chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. These ancient words carry fresh power for you right now. You have felt crushed, yes, but never destroyed. You have been broken, yes, but never abandoned. The closeness of God was hidden in your pain. Even when you thought heaven was silent, every sleepless night had purpose. The weight you've carried has been the evidence of your calling. It was not punishment, it was purification. You were not being rejected. You were being realigned. The pressure you felt was heaven pressing oil from your spirit. Only those who have been crushed can release fragrance into the world. The chosen ones are not known by comfort, they are known by the calluses of perseverance. There were moments when you questioned if it was worth it. You looked at others who seemed to walk easy paths and wondered why your journey demanded so much. But heaven was investing deeply in you, preparing a vessel that could carry divine authority without breaking under it. You were chosen for endurance because you are destined for impact. Sometimes the greatest victories are won in silence, while others celebrated on visible stages. You were fighting invisible wars, while others rested. You were wrestling with purpose. While others sought attention, you sought understanding. And heaven took note of it all. You are not behind, you are being built. Chosen one. The weight you carry is not your punishment. It is your evidence. Heaven trusted you with pain because heaven plans to trust you with power. Those who have never been crushed can never truly comfort. You will speak life into others not from theory but from testimony. The very things that tried to break you will become the stories that build others. And now, God whispers, I saw it all. Every tear, every sigh, every time you chose to believe when you could have given up, nothing was wasted. Heaven records what people forget. Your endurance has moved the heart of God. There are rewards being released not for perfection but for persistence. Take a breath, beloved. The heaviness that once chained you will soon become your armor. What the enemy meant for harm is being rewritten into heavenly promotion. You are being prepared to carry hope into dark places, strength into weary hearts, and truth into broken systems. You carry a light that terrifies darkness because it has already survived it. The season of silent endurance is ending. The season of visible purpose is beginning. What once weighed you down will now lift others up. The same tears that burned your cheeks will soon baptize others in courage. You are not finished, you are being revealed. And now, before you move from this moment, write your faith into the atmosphere. Let your declaration echo through this message and across heaven itself. Comment, "I am rising." Write it not as a wish, but as a prophecy over your life. When you declare it, you are not just typing words, you are announcing alignment. You are saying to every voice of fear, every memory of pain, and every chain that once held you, "I am no longer broken under it, I am rising through it." Heaven watches your response. Angels record your agreement. The act may seem small, but in the spiritual realm, it is a signature of surrender and faith. As you type those words, let the weight begin to lift. Let the heaviness fall away. You have carried enough, learned enough, and endured enough to rise with new strength. You have carried the weight. But now, the weight carries you, it propels you forward, upward, into the purpose for which you were born. The breaking was never to destroy you. It was to awaken you. You are rising. There were seasons when heaven seemed silent. You prayed until your voice trembled, waited until your hope wore thin, and questioned if God still saw you at all. You watched others move ahead, doors opening for them while you stood still before walls that would not move. But what you thought was delay was not denial, it was design. The silent years were not wasted. Heaven's strategy often hides in stillness. The moments when nothing seems to move are the very moments when roots are growing deeper. You were being anchored, not abandoned. God was fortifying you beneath the surface, strengthening what no one else could see. Sometimes the silence of God is not absence, it is protection. You were hidden in divine patience because premature exposure would have crushed what heaven was still forming inside you. There are lessons that can only be learned when the noise stops. In silence, you discovered your own voice. In waiting, you found your strength. In stillness, you learned to trust that God's hand moves even when His mouth does not speak. The unseen work He was doing in you will soon echo loudly through what you become. Heaven is deliberate. Every pause has a purpose. Every delay has a design. What you called waiting, heaven called weaving, a careful intertwining of timing, grace, and readiness. There were people who walked away in those silent years. But heaven removed them because they could not travel where you are being sent. You were never being ignored. You were being isolated for revelation. Heaven speaks through stillness as clearly as through thunder. The prophet wrote words that reach into your present moment. Book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end, it will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. This verse is more than encouragement, it is divine timing defined. Heaven's promises never expire. What was spoken over you still stands, untouched by time and unhindered by circumstance. The waiting did not weaken the word. It only refined your readiness to carry it. While you waited, you learned to see what eyes cannot. You began to discern movement in the unseen realm. You realized that silence is not inactivity, it is instruction. In the quiet, your spirit began to tune itself to the frequency of heaven's voice. You learned to hear whispers instead of noise, and that is where true power begins. The world glorifies speed, but heaven values sequence. God will never promote you prematurely. To reveal a promise before its time is to ruin its beauty. Like a seed in the dark soil, you were buried only to bloom later. The waiting was not punishment, it was preservation. Think of how a pearl forms slowly under pressure, unseen. That is what God was doing in you. The dark seasons, the unanswered prayers, the confusing detours, all of them added layers of purpose and wisdom to your soul. Every not yet from heaven was guarding your right now moment that is soon to arrive. If you had received what you wanted too early, you might have settled for what was temporary instead of stepping into what is eternal. Heaven does not hurry because heaven never loses control. You were hidden in the cocoon of divine order until your wings were ready for flight. The silence trained your hearing. The waiting built your patience. The loneliness sharpened your discernment. Every unseen hour of surrender has shaped you into someone who can be trusted with what's coming next. So now, when you look back at those silent years, see them not as wasted time but as sacred investment. Heaven was sculpting character while you thought nothing was happening. The crushing of impatience birthed maturity. The absence of applause built authenticity. What you endured in obscurity will become the foundation of what you build in visibility. You will soon thank God for every door that didn't open, for every season that stretched longer than you wished, for every night that seemed endless. Those were the nights that trained you to see sunrise differently. You are not the same person who entered the waiting room. You have become the kind of person who can walk out carrying destiny with grace. Heaven's timing is never random. Every silent moment was a seed. And now, as time aligns with prophecy, you will see what you once only believed. The waiting is ending, and the vision is approaching. But remember, when heaven moves, it never rushes. Everything happens exactly when it must. Your silence was sacred. Your stillness was strength. Your waiting was worship. And the God who watched every moment of it is now ready to unveil the purpose behind the pause. The silent years were not wasted. They were the womb of everything you're about to become. Sometimes when heaven speaks, the noise of the world tries to drown it out. You scroll, you listen, you search, but something in your spirit knows when it's not just another sound. It's different. It carries weight. It cuts through the fog, through distraction, through doubt. That's what this moment is. The voice that breaks through the algorithm has found you. It's strange, isn't it? How a single word, a phrase, a whisper can feel like it was written just for you. That's not emotion, that's recognition. Your spirit recognizes the language of heaven. You were designed to hear it. Long before technology existed, heaven already planned how to reach you. What you're hearing right now is not a coincidence. It's a divine appointment. Heaven speaks softly but powerfully. Sometimes it sounds like a quiet echo in your chest. Other times like a spark of truth cutting through confusion. Whatever form it takes, when it's God, you know. His voice doesn't bring fear, it brings awakening. It doesn't condemn, it calls. It doesn't push you down, it pulls you higher. You might be listening on your phone, sitting in a quiet corner, or maybe on a crowded bus, but right now, eternity leans close. Heaven has interrupted your scrolling to whisper your name again. It's not the volume that matters, it's the vibration. When God speaks, His words shake something deep inside you that the world could never touch. Jesus once said, Book of John, chapter 10, verse 27. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. That voice isn't just sound, it's recognition between creator and creation. When heaven calls, the chosen respond. That's what's happening right now. You are remembering the sound of your shepherd's voice. You've spent years listening to the noise of expectation, comparison, and fear. You've heard voices telling you you're not enough, not ready, not worthy. But none of those voices come from heaven. The voice of God doesn't echo shame, it ignites purpose. It doesn't compare, it commissions. Imagine it this way: your life is like a garden, and heaven's voice is the rain. You've had dry seasons, long droughts where you wondered if anything good could ever grow again. But when the rain finally falls, everything hidden beneath the soil begins to stir. Seeds that looked dead start to breathe again. That's what's happening right now. Your dry places are being watered by divine truth. There's something holy about hearing and responding. When you feel your heart move while listening, it's like standing in front of an open window in a storm. You can choose to close it, or you can let the rain in. When you open your heart, heaven begins to pour. Beloved chosen one, if these words reach you, it means heaven trusts you with understanding. But remember, truth isn't meant to be kept, it's meant to flow. You are not just a receiver, you are a river. Let what God pours into you flow outward to others who need light. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not feeding an algorithm, you are watering the soil of someone else's spirit. You are becoming a vessel through which heaven's rain can fall on dry hearts across the earth. Every click, every share, every word of encouragement becomes a ripple of truth that reaches further than you can see. And if you ever feel led to give, to donate, see it not as charity but as worship. When you sow into a message that carries God's voice, you are planting seeds into eternity. It's like lighting candles in dark rooms you may never enter. Every small act of generosity turns into spiritual fire somewhere in the world. Don't give out of pressure, give out of recognition. When a message touches you, it means heaven is confirming alignment. You are not just a listener, you are a participant in divine work. Just as farmers water their own crops, you help water the soil where your own faith grows. Picture it like this: when you invest in what carries light, you become part of its glow. You help the voice of heaven reach those who still sit in shadows, waiting for a word that will wake them up, just as this one found you. So if your heart is stirring, don't ignore it. Let gratitude guide your response. Share this truth with someone who's struggling to hear heaven through their noise. Subscribe to stay connected to the river of words that refresh your soul. And if you can, sow a seed of faith through giving, because every drop of water keeps this garden alive, and you are part of its bloom. Chosen one, never underestimate what happens when you respond to heaven's voice. One act of obedience can echo across generations. One message shared in faith can reach someone on the edge of giving up. One small seed sown can feed countless souls in need of hope. You are part of something divine, something eternal. The voice that breaks through the algorithm has chosen you not only to hear, but to carry, to share, to keep the fire burning. Let heaven speak through you. There comes a moment when heaven asks you to decide, when comfort and calling stand on opposite sides of the same road. You can feel it in your spirit even now. The atmosphere around you shifts. The whisper that once felt gentle now carries a weight. You know something is about to change, and this is that moment, the moment of divine decision. God's voice doesn't always sound like thunder. Sometimes it's the quiet pull in your chest when you know there's something greater calling you forward. Sometimes it's the unease you feel when you try to stay in places where you no longer belong. Heaven is asking you to move, not because you've done something wrong, but because the time for stillness has ended. When destiny calls, delay becomes disobedience. Heaven will not force your hand, it will invite your heart. Every great story in Scripture began with a moment of choice, a sacred pause when a person had to decide between the known and the unseen, between safety and surrender. You too, stand at that crossroad now. Heaven speaks clearly through the words written in the book of Joshua, chapter 24. Verse 15. Choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You have felt the tension of indecision for too long. You've tried to balance faith and fear, to keep one foot in destiny and one foot in doubt. But that season is over. The Spirit of God is saying, step forward, or the moment will pass. There is power waiting on the other side of your yes. You don't have to see the whole path to obey. You only need to trust the next step. Faith rarely shows the full picture. It reveals just enough light to move forward. The rest unfolds as you walk. Heaven never asks for perfection. It asks for obedience. The longer you wait for certainty, the further destiny moves ahead. Every divine opportunity carries a hidden expiration. The window doesn't stay open forever. When heaven extends an invitation, it expects a response. You may not feel ready, but readiness is not a requirement. Willingness is. God equips the obedient, not the comfortable. You've been sensing this shift for a while now. The things that used to satisfy you no longer do. The conversations that once fed your spirit now feel hollow. The environments that once fit now feel small. It's because your anointing has outgrown your surroundings. The nest that once protected you is now too tight for your wings. You are being called to soar. But obedience always costs something. It might cost relationships, habits, or plans you once held dear. Yet what you gain will outweigh what you leave behind. Heaven never takes without giving greater in return. Every step of obedience is an investment into your own resurrection. Chosen one, God is not asking for your perfection. He's asking for your yes. That single word can move mountains, silence storms, and unlock destinies. Don't underestimate the power of simple obedience. One act of surrender can change the entire trajectory of your life. The enemy's greatest strategy is hesitation. If he can't stop you, he'll stall you. He'll whisper, "Wait a little longer." But delay has a cost. Each time you postpone obedience, the voice of clarity grows dimmer. Today is the day to decide. The moment you say yes, heaven begins to rearrange everything on your behalf. You don't need to understand everything to obey. Abraham didn't. Moses didn't. Mary didn't. They all said yes before they saw the full plan. And because of that, generations were changed. The same power that guided them is guiding you now. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel that stirring in your chest, that mix of fear and excitement. That's what divine calling feels like. You are standing on holy ground, right where eternity and time meet. Heaven is waiting for your answer. And now, let your decision echo through the unseen realm. Write it, declare it, make it real. Comment the number 4444 below, a prophetic number symbolizing alignment, stability, and divine order. When you type it, don't see it as just digits on a screen. See it as a seal, a declaration that your spirit is aligning with heaven's design. You are saying, "I choose obedience, I choose faith, I choose to follow." That number is more than symbolism, it's agreement. Each 444 that appears becomes a beacon in the spiritual realm, a sign that the chosen ones are waking up, choosing their purpose, and stepping into divine order. So take a breath, lift your head. Heaven is calling your name again, not with pressure but with promise. The same God who spoke light into darkness is speaking courage into your heart right now. The question is simple, but sacred: will you choose him? Now, you thought you were forgotten. The silence, the shadows, the seasons when no one seemed to notice you, it all made you question if heaven had misplaced your name. There were moments when you watched others rise while you remained hidden, wondering if your time had passed. But the truth is this: you were not forgotten. You were hidden, Heaven hides what it values. Diamonds form in the dark, not in the open. Seeds grow beneath the soil, not under the sun. And you, chosen one, were being refined beneath the surface, kept away from exposure until your strength was unshakable. God was not overlooking you. He was protecting you. The stage you desired would have destroyed you too soon. The spotlight you prayed for might have burned you before your roots were ready. So, heaven covered you with obscurity as an act of mercy. It can be hard to appreciate protection when it feels like rejection. But look closer. Every door that stayed closed saved you from something that wasn't built for you. Every person who walked away was part of heaven's evacuation plan for your peace. Every opportunity that didn't unfold was a detour around destruction. God was not withholding favor, He was preserving purpose. There is power in being hidden. Hidden seasons sharpen discernment. When no one is watching, you learn to hear heaven clearly. When applause is absent, you discover the voice that truly matters. When affirmation fades, you find identity in presence, not performance. What felt like silence was actually the sound of God building your foundation. You didn't see it, but heaven was working behind the curtain. Every no that hurt you became a not yet that helped you. The friendships that dissolved, the plans that crumbled, the dreams that seemed delayed, all of them aligned to shape the vessel you are now. The hidden season was heaven's workshop. And through it all, you were never alone. We are reminded through the writings of the psalmist in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 1. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That secret place, those quiet, unseen corners of your life were sacred shelters. While the world saw stillness, heaven saw shaping. In that secret place, you learned endurance. You discovered that strength is not built in visibility, but in waiting. You came to understand that favor without foundation collapses. But when your roots run deep, storms cannot move you. Hiddenness was heaven's way of making you storm-proof. Think back on those lonely nights, those prayers that felt unanswered. They weren't ignored, they were being stored. Heaven bottles every tear. Nothing you have poured out in faith is wasted. The harvest may be unseen now, but the soil remembers every seed of endurance you planted. When the time is right, the hidden will be revealed and the waiting will make sense. There's a peculiar beauty in divine concealment. The caterpillar does not mourn the cocoon it yields to it. Inside the darkness, transformation happens quietly, invisibly. That's where wings are born. Likewise, your hidden season was a cocoon, not a cage. What felt like confinement was actually creation. God was forming something new inside you, something too powerful to be rushed. Now, you can feel the shift. The covering that once shielded you is beginning to lift. The air feels different, the horizon wider. Heaven is preparing to reveal what it has refined. You won't have to promote yourself, the light of what you carry will speak for you. Those who once overlooked you will be unable to ignore what God reveals through you. But don't despise the hiding. It was the hiding that taught you humility. It was the stillness that taught you strength. And it was the silence that taught you to recognize the voice of heaven over the noise of man. You would not have survived visibility without the lessons learned in secrecy. The season of hiddenness was never punishment. It was preparation. You were kept apart so that when the time came, you could stand apart. You were hidden so that when you rise, you will rise pure, sharp, and focused. Heaven did not forget you, it reserved you. When the door finally opens, it won't be by accident or coincidence. It will be because the appointed time has arrived. And when you step through it, you will carry not just talent, but testimony. You will walk not in ambition, but in anointing. Hiddenness is heaven's proof of intention. The greater the concealment, the greater the calling. And now, as the veil begins to lift, the world will finally see what heaven has known all along. There is greatness within you that the shadows could not hold forever. There are moments in the heavens when verdicts are written, when the unseen world aligns itself with the will of the Most High. What is decreed there cannot be undone on earth. The season you now stand in is one of those divine moments heaven's court has ruled. Every accusation that rose against you, every whisper of doubt, every spiritual attack meant to derail your purpose has been weighed and found wanting. Heaven has examined your scars, your endurance, your repentance, and your faith. The gavel has struck the golden floor of eternity, and a new decree has been released over your name. You are not condemned, you are commissioned. You are not bound, you are blessed. The record of your past has been wiped clean, replaced by the seal of divine favor. There were times when it felt like the opposition would never end. You battled confusion, heaviness, betrayal, and fear. It seemed as though everything that could go wrong did. But what you didn't see was that even in your suffering, the heavenly courtroom was observing. Your perseverance became evidence. Your prayers were testimonies. Your worship during pain became the proof that your heart was loyal to heaven's purpose. It may have looked like you were losing, but the trial was never about punishment, it was about preparation. Every season of pain was a witness testifying on your behalf. The very weapons formed against you became the reasons for your victory. Heaven has reviewed the case and declared you are free. The prophet Isaiah wrote words that now echo through your spirit with living power. Book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord. Think about how long you have carried the weight of other people's opinions, how much energy you've spent trying to prove your worth to those who could never see it. Heaven never asked you to defend yourself. The courtroom of man is filled with noise, but the courtroom of heaven is filled with truth. God himself has become your defender, and his verdict is final. The chains you felt were never permanent. They were the remnants of a case already closed. The blood of Christ has already covered what the enemy tried to expose. You are no longer defined by your failures or your fears. The sentence of shame has been overturned. Grace stands in its place, radiant and unbreakable. Heaven's judgment doesn't operate on emotion, it operates on authority. And authority has declared that your season of accusation is over. The time of defense has ended. The time of demonstration begins. You are stepping into a new chapter where vindication will not come through your words, but through your fruit. Those who doubted you will witness what heaven has decreed through your life. What was once warfare will now become worship. What was once chaos will turn into clarity. You will begin to see divine order replacing confusion, peace replacing torment, abundance replacing loss. The heavenly court has rendered its judgment, and the results are irreversible. There's a stillness that comes after the gavel strikes, a peace that settles deep within the soul. That peace is beginning to fill you even now. It is the assurance that the battle is finished, that the case has been decided in your favor. Heaven is not negotiating your destiny. It has already established it. Every time you worship, it's like signing your name beneath heaven's verdict. Every time you choose faith over fear, you affirm the decree that was written long before your pain began. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are the outcome of divine justice. Now, walk with your head lifted high, You are walking with the full backing of heaven's authority. The same God who rules galaxies has spoken on your behalf. The same throne from which creation began has declared your victory. When the enemy tries to whisper lies again, remind him that the case is closed. You owe nothing to your past but gratitude for the lessons it taught you. Your name is no longer tied to accusation, it is engraved in victory. Heaven's court has ruled, and the sound of that verdict echoes through eternity. No weapon shall prosper. No curse shall remain. No shame shall survive. You are walking beneath divine decree, covered in mercy, and strengthened by righteousness that is not your own. There is a reason the battle began so early in your life. The opposition wasn't random. It wasn't bad luck or coincidence. Darkness saw something glowing in you before you even knew it was there. The enemy recognized your light before you recognized your calling. That's why you were targeted young. That's why rejection came first. That's why confusion found you before clarity did. The enemy attacks what he fears, and he feared you. Long before you had words to explain it, you carried something sacred. Maybe you noticed how people reacted to you for no reason, how some were drawn to your presence, while others felt threatened by it. Maybe you wondered why peace around you seemed to provoke unrest in others. It's because your light exposes what others try to hide. You are a walking reminder that heaven is still near, and that terrifies darkness. The battles you fought were never about your weakness, they were about your potential. The enemy doesn't waste energy on the ordinary. Every attack was proof that you carry divine authority. The struggle you've survived has been refining you, polishing the mirror of your soul so that when heaven's light shines, it reflects without distortion. Scripture speaks clearly about this tension between light and darkness. We are told in the book of John, chapter 1, verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." That is not just poetic language. It's your story written thousands of years before your birth. You are the embodiment of that truth. Every time you choose faith over fear, compassion over bitterness, obedience over comfort, you prove that light still conquers. Think back to the moments you almost gave up, the nights when despair tried to whisper louder than hope. You didn't realize it, but even in your lowest moments, your spirit was glowing. Heaven saw it. The darkness saw it too. That's why the attacks came harder when you were closest to breakthrough. Every setback, every heartbreak, every betrayal, it all intensified because the enemy sensed your awakening. But what darkness didn't understand is that light doesn't fear the dark, it functions best in it. Your struggles have become your training. Every wound now shines like a window where God's glory can pour through. You don't just carry light. You are light. You were born to expose deception, to break chains, to shift atmospheres simply by standing in truth. You are the kind of person whose presence disrupts plans of destruction. When you walk into a room, invisible battles shift. When you speak, the spiritual climate responds. That's why your journey has felt like warfare, because your existence is warfare. You are the evidence that darkness is losing. And now, heaven wants you to understand something deeper. The very intensity of your battles reveals the magnitude of your purpose. The enemy attacked your peace because you are called to bring peace. He tried to silence your voice because your words carry healing. He tried to convince you you're powerless because he knows your authority is lethal to him. Beloved chosen one, the attacks were never personal, they were strategic. You are a threat to the kingdom of darkness, and that is why you cannot afford to live like a victim anymore. Victims react, but chosen ones reign. You reign not through pride, but through peace, not through control, but through surrender, not by avoiding the storm, but by carrying light into it. The enemy hoped to convince you that your pain disqualified you, but God is showing you that your pain proves you are qualified. Wounds become weapons in the hands of those who refuse to give up. Every scar on your soul carries authority to free someone else. The fire that tried to consume you has now become your illumination. The light within you has survived every attempt to dim it. That alone is victory. You stand as proof that darkness has limits, that evil can bruise but not break, that despair can delay but not destroy. You are not merely surviving, you are shining, and heaven is amplifying your radiance for the world to see. And now, let your declaration pierce the atmosphere. Let heaven and earth witness your agreement. Comment, "I carry light." Type it as a testimony, not a wish. Those 3 words are more than text. They are warfare. When you write them, you are drawing a line in the spiritual realm, declaring to every shadow that tried to silence you, "You failed." I am still shining. It's a small act, but heaven moves through small acts of faith. Each comment becomes a spark in the dark, a light rising from every chosen soul who refuses to be hidden anymore. Together, the sparks become a blaze that the enemy cannot contain. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey when the fire no longer feels like punishment, it feels like purpose. The heat that once terrified you now awakens something ancient inside your soul. It's as though the flames themselves recognize who you are. You've walked through so much, and yet, here you stand stronger, wiser, and unshaken. Heaven calls this moment rising crowned in fire. You have been refined, not ruined. The trials didn't burn you. They burned away what could not go with you. The pieces of pride, the fragments of fear, the layers of doubt, all of it turned to ash so the real you could emerge. When gold is placed in fire, it doesn't vanish, it shines. That's what's happening to you. The world sees scars, but heaven sees reflection. You are not a victim of the flames. You are a carrier of them. What once felt like destruction was actually divine ignition. The fire you endured is now the same fire that fuels your words, your vision, your passion. You walk with heat in your spirit, not because you are angry, but because you are alive. Heaven's flame burns in your bones, and you can no longer live half awake. The writer of Hebrews revealed the nature of that fire long ago. Book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 29. For our God is a consuming fire. This fire purifies, it doesn't punish. It refines the chosen until what remains looks like him, radiant, unbreakable, unstoppable. That's who you are becoming. Imagine your life as a forge. Every hardship was a hammer strike shaping your destiny. Every heartbreak was the bellows that fanned the flame. And now, what once looked like destruction has become craftsmanship. Heaven has been shaping you into a sword that gleams with divine authority. The pain had purpose, and the purpose was power. You are stepping into a season where you will carry fire without fear. Your words will warm the cold and ignite the weary. Your very presence will change the atmosphere around you. People won't always understand it, but they will feel it, the heat of heaven, the purity of faith, the passion of someone who has survived their own furnace. Chosen one. There's something sacred about rising after the fire. Ashes are not the end. They are proof of transformation. A phoenix never mourns the flames, it remembers them as the birthplace of flight. That's you now rising, wings still glowing from what you've overcome. And as you rise, heaven invites you to keep this flame alive. Let it spread. Let it touch others who are still walking through their own fires, unsure if they'll survive. Be the warmth in someone else's cold season, the light in their dark valley. Every share, every word you speak, every time you pass on hope, it's like striking flint against despair. creating sparks that remind others they are not alone. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not simply supporting content, you are feeding the fire. Each small act becomes a log added to a divine flame that refuses to die out in this world of noise and numbness. You are keeping the altar burning, ensuring that heaven's voice continues to reach souls who need it most. And if your heart ever feels moved to give, to donate, let it come not from obligation but from overflow. Giving is like pouring oil onto the flame. It keeps it bright, steady, and far-reaching. Your generosity becomes a torch that carries light into unseen places, into hearts you may never meet, into lives that will remember your kindness as the spark that reignited their hope. Think of it as tending a lighthouse on a stormy coast. Every small act of faith, liking, sharing, sowing, subscribing, is another beam of light that guides someone safely to shore. You may never see their faces, but heaven will. The light you protect today may be the light that saves someone tomorrow. This is not about building platforms, it's about building altars of remembrance, altars of testimony, altars where broken people can feel warmth again and remember that God still speaks through fire. When you choose to keep the flame alive, you're saying, "Let this light reach the ones still in the dark." So continue. Chosen one, keep your fire pure. Let it burn with compassion, not pride, with truth, not noise, with grace, not judgment. Carry it into your work, your relationships, your words, your worship. The same God who lit your spirit will sustain its flame as long as you keep passing it forward. Because this is how heaven's fire spreads, not through grand gestures, but through hearts that refuse to go cold. Every generation has its forerunners, those who walk ahead of the crowd, clearing paths through wilderness so that others can follow with greater ease. They are misunderstood, often isolated, and rarely celebrated in the moment. Yet without them, destiny would remain hidden behind overgrown paths of fear and tradition. You, chosen one, are among those forerunners. You carry the mantle of a pioneer, a trailblazer in the spirit. This calling isn't glamorous, it's heavy. It requires endurance when others quit, faith when others doubt, obedience when others hesitate. You have been walking through uncharted territory for years without realizing it. You've been breaking patterns, dismantling curses, and confronting spiritual cycles that ran through generations before you. You are the first in your line to do it differently, to say no to what enslaved your ancestors, to step where no one before you dared. That is the weight of the forerunner's mantle. Sometimes that weight feels unfair. You may look at others who seem to move freely while you battle invisible storms. You've asked why your road is so steep, why the warfare seems constant. It's because you're not walking a path that already exists, you're making one. The resistance you feel isn't punishment. It's proof that you're carving out territory that hell never wanted to surrender. The voice of prophecy echoes through time, confirming the nature of this calling. Book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 3. Prepare the way of the Lord, make his paths straight. Those words first describe John the Baptist, but they also describe you. The same spirit of preparation rests upon your shoulders. You are clearing ground, making straight paths in your family, your community, your generation. The forerunner's journey is lonely at times, but it's never wasted. You may not see immediate fruit, but heaven watches every step. Each prayer you pray clears spiritual debris. Each act of obedience plants seeds of future revival. Each tear shed in surrender waters soil that others will someday stand on. You are walking where there was once only wilderness, turning desolation into destiny. Look back for a moment, not in regret, but in revelation. Notice how certain doors never opened for you, not because you failed, but because you were never meant to enter someone else's path. You were called to build your own. You were meant to carry something original, something fresh from heaven's blueprint. What others saw as deviation was actually direction. And though it often feels like no one understands you, heaven does. The same God who anointed prophets, intercessors, and pioneers throughout history has placed that same spirit within you. You are part of a long lineage of those who walked by faith when sight offered no answers. The mantle resting upon you is ancient, yet alive it moves through time, finding hearts that are willing to carry the weight of new beginnings. Understand this: being a forerunner doesn't mean running ahead of everyone else. It means walking with heaven's timing even when others can't keep up. You are not competing. You are cultivating. You are not chasing visibility. You are chasing obedience. And though the path seems narrow, the impact is wide. There's a rhythm to your calling that may not match anyone else's. Don't apologize for it. The sound of your steps carries prophetic timing. You walk to a drumbeat only heaven can hear. That's why you've never quite fit in, because you weren't designed to blend in. You were created to awaken what has fallen asleep. The wilderness you've endured is sacred ground. Every battle you fought there has an echo. The silence you survived there holds songs waiting to be sung. And when the time is right, heaven will call your name again, not to begin, but to reveal what was built in secret. The mantle of the forerunner doesn't expire, it expands. What begins in isolation ends in influence. One day, those who misunderstood your path will thank you for paving it. They'll realize your quiet persistence was prophecy in motion. They'll see that your strange obedience opened doors for them. You'll stand not as a victim of hardship, but as a vessel of legacy. Chosen one. The mantle you carry is not fragile, it's fiery. It burns through stagnation, fear, and compromise. Wherever you go, transformation follows. And even when you don't see it, heaven does. Angels mark your footprints in the earth because those steps create history. So continue walking. Keep clearing the way. Keep praying through the fog, worshiping through the weight, trusting through the silence. The road you're building will outlive you. The light you carry will illuminate generations. There is a sound in the heavens that only a few can hear, the sound of divine invitation. It is gentle, yet it carries the authority of eternity. It doesn't demand, it draws. It doesn't force, it calls. And now, chosen one, that sound is reaching you. Heaven waits for your yes. Every great shift in your life begins with surrender. Not the kind that looks weak, but the kind that releases power. The kind that says, I may not understand everything, but I trust the one who does. Surrender isn't losing control, it's aligning with divine control. When you finally let go of what you cannot fix, heaven begins to move what you never could. For years, you have prayed for direction, asking heaven to speak. But often, heaven has been waiting on you to respond. The silence wasn't neglect, it was space for you to decide. Because when God calls, He waits for a response that echoes through both the natural and the spiritual. He is not looking for perfection. He is listening for permission. Look around your life for a moment, the patterns, the delays, the constant sense that you're meant for more. Those are not coincidences. They are signs that heaven has been whispering for your agreement. The door is already open, but it cannot swing wide until your spirit says yes. The prophet Isaiah once stood in the same sacred tension you feel now, caught between calling and choice. The moment of destiny came upon him, and his words still resound across ages. Book of Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I, send me." That was Isaiah's moment of surrender, and now yours has come. Heaven is asking, not out of need, but out of love, will you go? Will you obey? Will you trust me even when you can't trace me? You may feel inadequate, unqualified, uncertain, but every chosen soul feels that way before they step into divine purpose. God does not call the equipped, He equips the called. If He has brought you this far, it's because He knows what He placed within you. You are not being asked to be perfect, you are being asked to be available. When heaven waits, it is not impatience, it is anticipation. Angels pause their flight to witness human agreement with divine will. The moment you say yes, the spiritual atmosphere around your life changes. Paths straighten, delays dissolve. What once felt heavy suddenly moves with grace. Heaven begins to back your obedience with power. Surrender may not change your situation instantly, but it changes you. And when you change, everything around you starts to align. Doors open not because they were locked, but because you finally hold the key: obedience. The yes that heaven is asking for today may not be about something grand. It may simply be about trust, about forgiving where it hurts, about releasing control, about believing again after disappointment. But however small it seems, that decision ripples through eternity. The moment you say it, the kingdom of darkness trembles because a surrendered soul is unstoppable. Chosen one, heaven is leaning in right now. The Creator of all things is listening for your voice, not your excuses, not your explanations, just your agreement. That whisper in your heart is not imagination, it is invitation. So right now, wherever you are, let your obedience speak louder than your fear. Let your faith speak louder than your questions. Let your spirit answer the same way Isaiah did, "Here am I," and to seal that moment in the natural realm. Let your declaration rise like incense before heaven. Comment the number 545 below, a prophetic number symbolizing grace, change, and divine transformation. When you write it, see it not as digits on a screen, but as covenant, your agreement with heaven's plan. It is your signature in the unseen, your yes written in faith. The number becomes a symbol of alignment between your will and God's. It says, "I am ready to step into what has been waiting for me." Heaven doesn't need perfection, it needs participation. God already knows every weakness, every fear, every hesitation. Still, He calls you. Still, He waits. And still, He believes that your yes can change everything. The sound is echoing again, soft, patient, divine. "Whom shall I send?" heaven asks. And now the moment belongs to you. Will you answer? Pain has a strange way of becoming a teacher. It arrives uninvited, lingers longer than you expect, and leaves behind lessons that no comfort could ever provide. You, chosen one, have known pain deeply, not because you were cursed, but because heaven entrusted you with transformation. You are walking proof that suffering is not the end of the story. Your pain is turning into prophecy. Every tear you've shed has been translated into language heaven understands. Nothing you've endured has gone unnoticed. Pain does not evaporate in the presence of purpose. It evolves. It becomes the ink with which God writes redemption. The very moments that wounded you are the same ones heaven now uses to release healing through you. You've carried memories that used to sting, conversations that once broke you, and nights when you questioned whether the dawn would ever come. But those moments, heavy and hollow as they felt, were shaping your compassion. They were refining your discernment, expanding your ability to love beyond limits. You cannot carry light for others without first knowing what darkness feels like. It was never wasted. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the disappointment, they all became seeds. And those seeds are beginning to bloom in ways you never imagined. Every wound that once silenced you will soon speak wisdom. Every scar that once embarrassed you will become evidence of survival. What once looked like loss is becoming legacy. The Apostle Paul wrote words that still pulse with hope. Words that find you now like a hand reaching across time. Book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. These words are not poetic comfort, they are divine mathematics. Heaven never subtracts without multiplying. You may not understand how, but everything is weaving together. The chaos, the beauty, the waiting, the breaking, all of it is being stitched into something redemptive. Even your silence was a verse in the story heaven is telling through you. You thought your prayers vanished into the dark, but they became stars guiding others. Pain taught you empathy. It broke your pride. It gave you eyes to see the hurting and a heart that recognizes hidden sorrow. You now speak softly to wounds because you've known their ache. You stand gently in other people's storms because you remember what it's like to weather your own. This is the power of redeemed suffering. It doesn't just heal you, it heals through you. There is glory hidden in grief. The crushing that once felt unbearable became the birthplace of anointing. The oil of heaven flows from places the world calls broken. That's why your prayers now carry weight. They come from experience, not theory. When you speak peace, it's not from borrowed faith, it's from battles won in secret. And the people around you will feel it. They won't always understand what changed in you, but they'll notice the calm in your presence, the authority in your words, the light in your eyes. That's not charisma, it's transformation. You've been through fire and come out refined. You've walked through loss and come out luminous. Your life has become a prophecy written in motion. Every step forward declares that pain cannot hold purpose hostage. Every act of kindness proclaims that love outlives loss. Every time you choose forgiveness, you rewrite generational stories that once ended in bitterness. You are not repeating cycles, you are redeeming them. The world needs people like you, those who have been broken but still believe, those who have been crushed but still choose compassion. You carry the fragrance of heaven because you've walked through the furnace of earth. Your words are healing because your wounds were real. You don't speak theory, you speak testimony. And even now, as you reflect on the roads you've walked, you can feel gratitude beginning to replace grief. The ache in your chest becomes a quiet reverence. You realize that the pain that tried to bury you has actually planted you, and what was once your tomb has become your garden. Chosen one, you are living evidence that resurrection is not an event, it's a lifestyle. You rise again and again, stronger, softer, and wiser each time. The things that tried to destroy you have instead deepened your purpose. Let the world see the light that came from your ashes. Let your life speak of grace louder than your wounds ever spoke of pain. Because this transformation, this rebirth, this beauty from brokenness is your prophecy fulfilled. There are moments in a chosen one's journey when heaven speaks not only with comfort, but with caution. Love doesn't just embrace, it also warns. And now, beloved, you have reached a chapter where mercy asks you to listen closely. For too long, you have carried grace lightly as though it will always wait. But grace, though endless in depth, is not careless in timing. There is a moment when mercy steps back, not out of cruelty, but out of justice. This is not to instill fear, but reverence. The path of purpose demands awareness. When heaven calls repeatedly and you delay, something begins to shift in the unseen realm. It is not that God stops loving you. It is that the window of alignment begins to close. Some doors are appointed to seasons, and when the season passes, the door is sealed not in wrath, but in wisdom. Heaven protects its timing with divine order. You have felt it before, that gentle conviction, that internal stirring, that subtle warning not to compromise. Those moments were heaven's mercy in motion, guarding you from detours that would cost too much. Yet mercy, though patient, will not strive forever. Even the softest whisper from God carries a boundary. The ancient words written in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 3, still carry weight across centuries. My spirit shall not always strive with man. It is a reminder that the presence of God is holy, not casual, sacred, not optional. When he speaks, it is not to be debated but obeyed. Every delay in obedience risks dulling the sound of his voice in your heart. There is a line between wrestling with God and resisting him. Wrestling refines you, but resistance blinds you. And blindness is the quiet tragedy of the disobedient, seeing, yet not perceiving, hearing, yet not understanding. Heaven does not withdraw in anger, but in silence. And silence is far heavier than rebuke. You are being warned not because judgment is near, but because opportunity still is. Heaven warns whom it loves. The shaking you feel is not punishment, it's preservation. God shakes what is unstable so that only what's eternal can remain. The uncomfortable conviction you sense is the fire of love refining what compromise once clouded. If you have delayed obedience, if you have walked in circles around the same calling, if you have treated conviction as suggestion stop, mercy is standing before you now, still extended. The same spirit that convicts also comforts, but only when you respond. Heaven is not asking for perfection. It is asking for surrender before time demands repentance. Look at your life. Notice the patterns that keep repeating, the doors that refuse to open, the peace that fades quickly, the restlessness that returns after every short victory. These are not coincidences. They are indicators that heaven is waiting for obedience, not effort. God will not bless what he has not built, and he cannot protect what you refuse to release. The fear of the Lord is not terror, it is clarity. It's the awareness that life is holy ground and that every decision is a seed. You are not being scolded, you are being summoned back to reverence. The world may celebrate compromise, but heaven still honors obedience. Remember, this delayed obedience eventually becomes disobedience. Every time you postpone what God told you to do, you teach your heart to hesitate, and hesitation hardens hearing. Yet even now, grace is reaching again. The voice that could have stayed silent chooses instead to whisper once more, return. Heaven's correction is never condemnation, it is course correction. It is the hand of a father guiding a child away from the edge of a cliff. That's what this moment is, a sacred rescue disguised as conviction. Chosen one, you are not too far. You are not too late, but you are being called to seriousness. The time for half-hearted living has ended. Mercy has been patient, but purpose will not wait forever. Step back into alignment while the door is still open, while the Spirit still speaks, while the light still lingers. For soon, the silence will mean that heaven has already moved forward, and you will realize that what you mistook for delay was departure. Respond while grace still reaches, because mercy, though mighty, does not wait forever. There is a crown waiting for you, crafted not from gold or jewels, but from endurance, obedience, and quiet faithfulness. It was designed long before you began your race, waiting on the other side of your perseverance. Heaven calls this moment the crown awaits. You have walked through storms that stripped everything away, yet you kept walking. You've stood in silence when others misunderstood you. You've carried faith like a torch through winds that tried to extinguish it. That perseverance has not gone unnoticed. Every trial became a thread in your crown. Every yes whispered through tears became a jewel in its setting. The world crowns people for achievement, but heaven crowns them for endurance. Your faith, tested in secret, has produced something eternal. You are not being rewarded for what you've done, but for what you refuse to let die. Every time you held on to hope, even when nothing made sense, heaven took note. There's a passage that speaks directly to this promise. Book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. That's not just a distant prophecy, it's a living reminder. Faithfulness always bears fruit, even when the soil looks barren. The crown of life is not just a future reward, it is a present transformation. It's the peace that covers you when storms rage. It's the quiet strength that makes you stand when others fall. But crowns are not placed on those who sprint, they're given to those who endure. You are nearing that divine moment when heaven's hand rests upon your head, not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful. Imagine your life as a long, winding path through mountain terrain. Along the way, you've stumbled, crawled, and sometimes sat in exhaustion. But even in the pauses, you were still moving. Each scar you carry has become a story etched in gold. The crown you will wear is built from the fragments of your faith, the times you chose love over bitterness, obedience over comfort, prayer over silence. You might not see it, but others already feel the royalty of your resilience. Your calm in chaos speaks louder than your words. Your forgiveness after betrayal radiates a kind of grace the world can't explain. That is the crown of life in motion. It's not ornamental, it's transformational. It changes the air around you, turning pain into wisdom and loss into legacy. And now, as you approach this new season, heaven is asking you to protect that crown. Do not trade it for distraction. Do not lay it down for approval. Do not let discouragement loosen its grip. You are royalty in the making, chosen to reflect divine strength in human form. But remember, crowns aren't meant to be hidden in chambers. They are meant to shine in light so that others remember who the giver is. The crown upon your life carries influence, not for ego, but for purpose. Every time you speak, love, give, or serve, the light from that crown touches another soul. You're not just wearing it for yourself, you're carrying it for those who will follow. And this is where your small acts matter. When you like, when you share, when you comment, when you subscribe, you are helping that light reflect further. Think of it as lifting a mirror toward the sun. Each reflection illuminates another corner of darkness. When you share this message, you're passing the torch to someone still trapped in shadow, reminding them that they too have a crown waiting. And if your heart ever leads you to give or donate, let it be like laying a jewel on the altar of gratitude. You're not just supporting words, you're investing in eternal stories, helping this voice of hope reach hearts that need to remember who they are. Each offering becomes a spark that fuels the flame of light, spreading across souls who have nearly forgotten heaven still speaks. Your engagement is more than digital. It's spiritual. Each action ripples through the unseen, building bridges between hearts and healing. It says, I'm not just a listener, I'm a light keeper. You're part of something larger than one voice. You're part of a divine movement, ordinary people carrying extraordinary purpose. So, Wear your unseen crown with humility. Let it remind you that every challenge you overcame has meaning. You have been refined through pain, prepared through patience, and positioned through perseverance. And now, heaven nods toward you with gentle authority. Rise crowned in fire and faith before you go. If this message stirred something deep within you, let your agreement resonate in this space. Leave a comment below. Your words may be the spark that reignites someone else's hope. The crown is real. The moment is here, and heaven is watching, smiling, saying, "You made it through the fire, now shine." There comes a time when heaven begins to separate the chosen from the crowd, not to isolate them in pride, but to preserve their purity of purpose. You may feel it even now, a quiet pulling away, a gentle yet undeniable shift. People who once understood you suddenly don't. Environments that once felt right now feel heavy. Conversations that used to excite you now drain you. This is not rejection, it is refinement. Heaven is performing what Scripture calls a holy separation. It's not punishment, it's positioning. When God begins to elevate you, He first eliminates distractions. Before He crowns, He cleanses. Before He multiplies, He purifies. The pain of this process comes not from loss, but from letting go of what can't ascend with you. You've been sensing that something in your circle no longer fits. The reason is simple: your frequency has changed. The vibration of your spirit has shifted to match heaven's tempo, and not everyone around you can resonate with that sound. Some connections were for a season, not a lifetime. Some alliances were for learning, not for legacy. You are now stepping into a space where divine alignment matters more than familiar comfort. It's a hard thing to accept that the very people who once walked beside you may not follow you into the next chapter. But destiny often requires distance. Abraham had to leave his homeland. Joseph had to walk away from betrayal. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowd to commune with the Father. You cannot carry everyone into your promised place. Some will misunderstand your silence, others will misinterpret your obedience. Still, you must go. The Apostle Paul wrote with divine clarity in the book of 2 Corinthians on chapter 6, verse 17. "Come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you." These are not words of exclusion, they are words of elevation. Separation is not about superiority, it is about sanctity. To be chosen is to be set apart. When heaven calls you higher, everything that clings to comfort will resist. You'll feel the tension between loyalty and calling, between nostalgia and necessity. But the greater your purpose, the smaller your circle becomes. God is not being cruel by removing people or opportunities. He's clearing space for clarity. Some voices had to fade so you could hear His. In this sacred pruning, you may find yourself walking alone, but only for a time. Isolation is not abandonment, it's incubation. The same God who separates also sends. He pulls you aside to fill you with what you will later pour into others. Every time God narrows your path, He is increasing your focus. The fewer distractions, the sharper your discernment. Think of an eagle soaring above the storm. It cannot fly with the flock, it must climb alone. The higher it goes, the thinner the air, the quieter the noise. But it is there in the silence above the clouds that it sees farther than any other creature. That is your current transformation. You are being lifted from the noise of the earth into the stillness of heaven's view. It hurts, yes. The parting of ways always does. There will be moments when you look back and wonder if you've made a mistake. But when you lift your eyes, you will see that new doors are opening, doors that could not appear until you released what was old. What you thought was subtraction is actually sacred exchange. Heaven is refining your relationships, your goals, even your thoughts. Anything not aligned with your next assignment will begin to feel heavy. That heaviness is the Spirit's way of saying, "This no longer belongs here." Letting go is not failure, it is faith. You are trusting that what is meant to stay will remain and what must leave will go in peace. The final separation is not about loss, it's about legacy. You are being prepared to stand among a remnant, a generation of pure-hearted carriers of light. God is shaping you into someone who can walk with strength, love with discernment, and lead without compromise. So when you feel that pull to step back, to walk away, to release something you once clung to, obey it. Heaven knows what it's doing. You are being refined, not rejected, protected, not punished. And when the dust of separation settles, you will see clearly everything that left made room for everything that was meant to arrive. Something shifts in the air when heaven finishes its refining work. The pressure that once felt endless begins to lift, and in its place comes peace steady, quiet, undeniable. You look around and realize that the storms which once shook your life have calmed, not because they lost their strength, but because you found yours. The fire that once burned you now burns within you, and you finally understand everything had purpose. You have entered a new beginning, the beginning heaven has been preparing you for all along. This is not the start of something random. It is the unveiling of something ancient. You are stepping into alignment with what was written about you before time began. The weight that pressed on your shoulders was not meant to break you. It was meant to form the shape of your crown. You now walk with authority, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that glows. Heaven's mark rests on your forehead, and though the world may not see it, the spiritual realm bows in recognition. Every previous season now makes sense. The silence, the fire, the pruning, the loneliness, they were not separate chapters but connected threads in one divine tapestry. You see it now, nothing was wasted. Even your waiting was worship. Even your wandering was still within His will. Every detour, every delay, every tear has become part of a masterpiece that could only be painted through endurance. And as you look forward, heaven whispers, "Behold, I make all things new." Those words, spoken in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 5, are not distant prophecy, they are present reality. Everything that was once broken in you is being restored. Everything that seemed impossible is being rewritten by divine hands. Heaven's declaration over your life is not restart, but rebirth. You are not beginning again from the old ground, you're walking on new soil. Take a moment to breathe this in. The heaviness that once sat on your chest is gone because heaven's breath now fills your lungs. You can sense it, the freedom, the clarity, the courage. You're no longer reacting to life, you are co-creating with heaven. The rhythm of your heart now beats in sync with the divine pulse of destiny. You've become aware of your authority, not as arrogance, but as awareness of assignment. This new beginning doesn't mean there won't be challenges. It means you will face them differently. You have learned that peace isn't the absence of battle, but the presence of purpose. You no longer fear conflict because you know who fights beside you. You've seen too much of God's faithfulness to question His ability now. The same hand that pulled you from the pit will lead you through the promise. Your perspective has shifted. Where you once saw obstacles, you now see opportunities for demonstration. Where you once begged for escape, you now ask for endurance. You understand that the power of resurrection doesn't come without the experience of the cross. The trials you faced were not signs of God's absence. They were evidence of your calling. Heaven refines those it intends to reveal. Look at your reflection now, not just in the mirror, but in the spirit. The fear that once clouded your eyes has been replaced by fire. You no longer look like what you went through. That's what transformation does. It erases the evidence of survival and replaces it with the mark of glory. You have become living proof that God still turns ashes into beauty and despair into destiny. There is a steadiness inside you now, a confidence that doesn't depend on validation, applause, or understanding. You know who you are and whose you are. The whispers of doubt that once paralyzed you now fade beneath the roar of conviction that lives in your spirit. You have become both warrior and worshiper, both conqueror and comforter. You carry the balance of fire and tenderness, power and peace, and heaven smiles. The angels that once guarded you through storms now stand in quiet reverence as you step into your next chapter. The throne of God watches with approval, for you have endured the refining, survived the wilderness, and remained faithful when it would have been easier to walk away. The story heaven began in you is now unfolding in full color. From this moment on, you will walk differently. Doors will open not through striving, but through alignment. Favor will follow you not because you chase it, but because it recognizes where you belong. What you speak will carry weight, not from eloquence, but from authenticity born of pain and purified in prayer. You are no longer just a believer, you are an ambassador of heaven. Everywhere you go, the atmosphere will shift. People will sense peace when you enter. The broken will find healing in your words. The hopeless will feel courage rise when you speak, not because you are perfect, but because you carry presence, the presence of the one who transformed your wilderness into worship. Heaven's new beginning is not loud, it's luminous. It shines quietly through those who have been through fire and found faith on the other side. That's you now, a living flame, steady and unafraid. You are not returning to who you were. That version of you no longer exists. You are walking as the fulfillment of prayers you once cried. So step forward without fear. The same voice that called you out of darkness now calls you into destiny. The same spirit that sustained you in silence now sends you into purpose. The same grace that kept you through battle now crowns you in peace. And now, chosen one, the journey comes full circle. You have walked through revelation, refinement, and restoration. You've stood in fire and come out shining. Every word spoken over you was a seed, and you have carried it faithfully to this moment, the moment of release. Heaven's echo fades into silence, not because it is over, but because the message has landed where it was always meant to, inside your heart. You are no longer the same. Something in you has awakened a deeper peace, a stronger resolve, a clarity that doesn't fade with emotion. You are walking proof that divine purpose cannot be delayed forever. The world will soon see what heaven has always known, that your light was never meant to flicker, it was meant to guide. As you stand here at the end of this journey, let your response become worship. Every act of gratitude, every word, every gesture becomes part of the offering. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not just interacting, you are amplifying heaven's voice. Each click is like another torch passed into waiting hands, spreading light into unseen corners. And when you comment, let it come from your heart. Write what this message stirred in you, your revelation, your reflection, your renewal. You never know who will read your words and find the courage to keep going. Sometimes your comment becomes the very confirmation someone has been praying for. This may be the end of the script, but it is the beginning of your movement. Carry what you've received. Live it, breathe it, share it. Let your presence speak the language of heaven wherever you go. Heaven smiles over you now. The story continues in you, through you, and beyond you.